Hello and welcome to SJU. We are counting down the greatest films of the decade. We've already done 2010 through 2013, Dan Murrell, and now we're on to 2014. 2015, we're going to plow through this, baby, and we are going to talk about the best movies. Picture this. It's 2014. Oscar winner, Birdman, which I was very excited about. Top of the box office. Transformers: Age of Extinction.
The opposite of Birdman.
Excited. Opposite of Birdman. Opposite feeling
Not
tone.
Greta Gerwig's best.
Hey.
Not her best. Not her best.
No.
You know, it was the moment in Little Women that the Transformer came out of Joe that I felt like that movie really sung.
Yeah.
There were some other good movies that year, though. There were plenty of good movies that year. It was a good movie year for film.
Good movie year. Yes, it was.
We've come across a lot of really good movies over the last decade that we've been looking back on. But Spencer GIlbert's going to kick us off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if people pick the comic book movies. We have to at least contractually mention Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain America: The Winter Soldier, just so people can calm down.
Hi. You may notice at a certain point while watching this video that we failed to discuss the actual best movie of the year in Mad Max. And the reason for that is that we're just like real cool and chill people who were trying to wait for the other person to have an, they get, like, I wanted you to have your shot, Spencer.
I feel like anyone at this table would be better at talking about it than me, so I wasn't going to take it.
I wanted to pick Mad Max, but I was like, one of those three is definitely going to take it. So I was like, all right, well, I'll let one of those guys
Surely Roth will discuss the Doof Warrior.
We were discussing this on Slack where we all post what we picked, and Roth said something, blah, blah, blah. But also...
Yeah, mouthy.
But also, one of you will pick Mad Max, or I'm leaving Mad Max for one of the rest of you. And I think that all just incepted into our heads that one of the other ones was going to talk about Mad Max Fury Road, but we didn't.
Then after we finished the video, I went, oh no!
Shoot. I will say this. I think that we've actually gotten to the core of the issue, which is that you don't listen to me ever.
It was a long Slack message.
It was 4 sentences. These are my movies. Mad Max is the shit. Someone pick Mad Max. That's it. Dan, talk about Mad Max, please, because it's amazing visually. This is what cinematic movie making is all about. You talk about using the tools of cinema to tell a story. That's exactly what Mad Max does. It absolutely should be taught in film schools for that reason. It doesn't rely on exposition at all. Character is 100% revealed through action.
Yep.
And I mean that quite literally.
All show, no tell. I love this movie.
Yeah, it's all show, no tell. It's absolutely stunning. This really is, if not my favorite, one of my favorite movies of that year, and we failed.
All right.
But we're correcting it.
Let me set the record straight on what happened.
Set it straight.
Here. Here's the message on Slack. Ready? For Friday, 2014, Whiplash, Nightcrawler.
Yes.
2015.
We can't do spoilers. Did we already? Okay.
We already did 2014.
Okay.
Yeah.
2015, the two films that you chose.
Yes.
And in parentheses, Spencer.
I don't read parentheses.
If you want insert film here, can do Mad Max happily, just figured someone would grab.
Oh, right, because I thought there's a movie that I picked that you really like, and I was like, if you want that one, I'll grab Mad Max. So the point is, Spencer didn't listen to me.
Spencer! This is Spencer's fault.
Luckily there's a record. Show don't tell, Roth. You can't just write something in parentheses and think an actor.
You gotta get into your rig. You gotta spray some paint on your face, get into your rig.
Yeah. Anyway, Mad Max is great, and we should get back to the other movies we're talking about, which aren't Mad Max, but which should be because it's amazing.
Yes.
And I
dope,
hate it when people say that it sucks because there's no story, because there is a story. It's just not told in the conventional way.
Yes.
And there are arcs to all of the characters. They're beautiful arcs that are reached at the end of the film.
Yep.
And it's great, and I was rooting for it to win all of the Oscars, which it won a lot, but not the big ones.
Yeah.
One of my favorite theater-going experiences, I saw this when I was still working at Warner Brothers. We were in a screening, and the soft-spoken man who worked in a department who rarely ever spoke. He was like the behind the scenes. We have a very shy editor, and he very rarely ever speaks. And this was our shy editor in that department. And after the storm chase, out of nowhere, he stood up out of his seat and went, "Hell yeah!" And then just quietly sat back down. And then I didn't hear from him again for 6 months.
All right, you guys.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah. Mad Max, Fury Road.
Check it out.
I think the lesson that we've learned is love Mad Max and listen when people are talking.
If it was important, you wouldn't have put it in parentheses.
Back to the video.
Back to the
video.
But I'd like to highlight first a lesser-known film of that year called Force Majeure. Oh man, this one's good. They're remaking it with Will Ferrell and Tina Fey, so of course you can just see the American one when it comes out. But if you want a head start, it's about a guy on a ski trip with his family, and there's what he thinks is an avalanche heading towards them all, and he bails. He leaves them all in the dust, and yet the avalanche just kind of peters out, and it's just like a dusting of snow, and then there's a long awkward silence after that as his family looks at him and says, "What have you done, you bastard?" Then the rest of the film, it's a dark comedy. The rest of the film basically deals with that kind of loss of faith in the father figure and his crisis of masculinity that he undergoes, and it's a great like comedy about the expectations of of manhood, and when you fail to live up to them, and that burden then falls on the family to make him feel like a man again, to the point where they're staging disasters for him to save them from, and like just it's a real ode to fragile men, I'd say, in a way that doesn't show up on film very much. Like there's all these heroic deeds and people doing the right thing. And it has you question, like, when it comes down to it, your primal nature, like, you might fail. You might save yourself before the people you care about. And the fallout from that, the weight of that kind of destroys a family and a marriage. Or does it? You know, there's plenty of twists and turns in it. But it's an underseen foreign film. It's got Tormund Giantsbane in it. He's great. He's like the buddy who's like, come on, you got to be a man. But if he were in the situation, who knows what would happen if we're all put in that. So it's really good, really darkly funny. And I hope they don't screw it up when they remake it.
They certainly will, though that's a great cast. I mean, it's a great cast, but almost very few remakes work. That sounds great. I actually haven't seen it. That sounds amazing. I have so many questions about manhood that we will get into at a different point.
It's a different pre-tape.
Starr, it's a different pre-tape. Well, I really do, because like women openly talk about the things that we do to have our partner feel that they're our hero.
Yes.
You don't ever say that to your partner, so Caleb, you didn't hear this. But Joe, you also have a story of manhood,
which I will communicate in Tim Allen grunts.
Great.
John Wick is one of the best movies of this year. I think John Wick again changed the action genre just with how slick it looks. I think you talked Fast Five last year. I don't know how we're spacing these out. But I think John Wick, with how slick and stylized it is, Leach did a great job of just making it feel grounded and real. The stunt team in these movies is just an unreal, talented group. And the gun fu is ridiculous and the body count is really absurd, but yet somehow it's just visceral and cool and fun. It's one part just badass fight and then one part just very complex dance that would win any dance competition on any network show. It's Keanu Reeves' best role. Yeah, man, John Wick. Y'all like this movie?
That's a great movie. John Wick is certainly visceral, but it is also completely justified, and I think that we all know this, that the ratio of one puppy to 80 human beings is correct.
100%.
Yes, that is correct. That's science, Dan Murrell. Another visceral movie that came out that year that I love, this is still my favorite from Damien Chazelle, is Whiplash. And that's not to disparage any of his other work. This is just my favorite. It's so simple and clean. It's the story of this relationship, obviously, between Miles Teller, who is an aspiring musician and drummer, and his very abusive instructor, J.K. Simmons. It is not rushing or dragging. It is perfectly paced movie and storytelling. And also, I just think it hits on something that people don't talk about a lot, which is that if you guys have ever taken a class that's artistic from anyone that's either acting or, okay, for me it's mostly acting, those are very sick relationships that often happen because the people that are teaching them are often failed in that particular field, and they will take out a lot of their stuff on their students. And with J.K. Simmons, what I thought was so interesting about this film is that it's unclear when he's doing that and when he's actually trying to push him, or when it's benefiting actually his talent and pushing him further, and when it's not, because there is a healthy pushing that I think needs to happen to get people to their best artistically. And it's certainly a story about how far we will go to achieve our very best.
But I also
Dan
feel
Murrell.
like, oh, sorry.
No.
Just like,
I'm on cocaine, so.
yeah, nice. Even, you know, when you say like he's a failed jazz musician, I feel like being having a steady gig as a teacher is probably the highest heights a jazz musician can aspire to. It's like, I play in the best hotel lobby.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that he is particularly a failure, but that's probably when he was a young man, not what he dreamed of. You know what I mean? I think some people do dream of being teachers, and they're excellent at it.
Yeah.
But that is few and far between, and that's why they're so special.
It is my favorite movie of the year, of this year. I just think that, you know, it's funny how seriously they take jazz.
Jazz is a serious business, Jerry.
Oh, yeah.
Anything should be taken.
When my
Have you
combo
seen
was playing in the
Butter?
lobby of a medieval times, ooh, yeah, we were taking it seriously, man. Oh, yeah.
My favorite movie, these are all stories about manhood. Mine's about Boyhood, because it's called Boyhood.
Hey!
Eventually into manhood.
I love our friends at Red Letter Media, but I feel like they turned this movie into a little bit of a joke with that it took 12 years to make video, which was hilarious, but then that became the overriding sentiment in many circles about this movie, that it was just it was about the discourse about it. I think it really is a unique and fascinating movie. It's unlike any movie I've really seen before. You know, you have movies like the Up series, and then like you have Harry Potter and films where the kids have grown up throughout the course, but this idea of structuring a narrative around this kid and doing it for 12 years. And
Which, by the way, a long time. Lots of things can happen in 12 years. Skyscrapers, computers happen, and
Lots of murder.
Yeah.
I like that Richard Linklater a lot of times is trying to remix film, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. You know, he went through his like scan drawn animation phase, but this was, I think, an experiment that worked really well. I know a lot of people kind of watch the movie and they're like, I don't get the point of it. You know, it's like, well, yeah, it's not supposed to be like he starts as a child and becomes a fully developed adult man. It's really more about like this life, checking in on somebody throughout their life. And, I don't think he's supposed to be perfect at the end of the movie. They're like, who's just some dumb college kid at the end? Like, yeah, of course he is. I see you sinking over there, Roth.
You're making really salient points, and I feel so bad. I'm trying.
How does this keep happening?
Because you're making really
Time's a
good
flat
points.
circle.
Yep.
How do these chairs not? Well, boost yourself up so that I can.
It's weird because it's like the chairs are fine, but then you can do something specific. Because this happened to me the other day. Like, this one's fine right now, but then I sat on it weird, and all of a sudden I was on the ground.
2020, we're all getting bar stools. But yes.
Anyway,
Richard Linklater playing with time.
Yes.
in a
As he
variety
does
of
so
ways,
well in
as
the he does it in the Before trilogy, like checking in on a relationship throughout time, and I think it's something that only film can do. It's the only medium that really plays with time in that way, and you can experience the passage of it as you're experiencing the art. And like there's so many specifics of watching this kid grow up, but I think the story is that you're just supposed to relate to the general experience of growing up. You're supposed to just relive your own childhood through this person. So it's not plot heavy, but I thought that was a great experience.
yeah, I like it. I like that movie a lot. I know some people don't, but I do, and I got the microphone.
Yeah.
I think Boyhood. Jerks.
I want that to be memed so bad. I do, and I've got the microphone. The Before Sunrise, Sunset,
Trilogy,
just about noon trilogy is my favorite
So
of
good.
his because it is really does have something to say about the nature of a relationship. Spencer Gilbert, you have another
Am I up
movie
again?
for it. You're up again,
Are
man.
you? Okay. Yeah, I'll go. Birdman, and the subtitle of Innocence or whatever it was. Man, I know it's a gimmick, but that tracking shot that lasts the whole film is
great.
So incredible. That's so good. You're just really in. It kind of reminds me of Black Swan in a way, the other one we talked about, that you're just in Michael Keaton's headspace, and the camera's just swirling around him the entire time as the line between art and reality blur, not only in the movie and his character in the film, but also his character in the film and Michael Keaton. Like there's just layers of line blurring between character, actor, plot, story, and like everyone's playing a heightened version of themselves. I love Ed Norton as the really difficult, pompous ass method actor, because like that's good for him. Good for him good for him for putting that on screen for everybody to enjoy. It's just, and you were talking about Whiplash and drums and. The score of this, that you find out is actually like the guy outside drumming on the thing, which again is like bleeding into the soundtrack over and over. Just the percussion that takes you through this whole movie. It's got flow. It's got rhythm. It's got flow. You're on, like, it feels like you're in a psychedelic river that flows through this backstage area and onto the stage and into his home and out, and he becomes a bird, he becomes a man, all that stuff. That's just really a cool experience. I watched this with my wife, who was on Broadway for many years, and I was like, "Oh, that seems like a horror show of like what actors are like." She's like, "No, that's what
right.
Broadway actors are like."
Yeah.
That's pretty spot on. So I guess it nailed that too.
It's great, man, and it's so funny too because we also talk about the deconstruction of the superhero movie, and no movie did it better than Birdman with Michael Keaton and
Mystery
casting
Man.
him. Okay, fair enough. But Emmanuel Lubezki, who's the DP, I think is the greatest gift to cinema in the last 10 years. I mean, and that is a dramatic statement. But even a movie that I didn't love as much, which was Revenant, is so stunning to look at.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and he's shooting on digital. Like, go ahead.
Well, I think I think it works a lot better. It clicks better for me in Birdman than it does in Revenant. But just the swagger of like, just want to make sure y'all know that we made the hardest movie possible and we nailed it. Like with Birdman, it really clicks for me, and I'm on board. Like, damn right, y'all did. Okay, like I will follow along. And you're. With Birdman, it works because you're aware of it, like moment to moment to moment to moment, but it never really takes you out. I don't know. It's like a good balance of like, I'm in it and I'm also standing on the outside of it, appreciating every frame of it. It just works really well.
Quick thing, which was that I said that with total love because I love things that are shot on film, but I feel like he shows you that it's not really necessarily the tool, it's how you're using it. Sure. Emmanuel Lubezki. Joe Starr, you have another movie for us.
Yeah, it's called Paddington. It changed my life. God, I love this movie. Man, you know what? I look back and I realized that my 2014 was an empty, soulless void because I did not see Paddington until probably like 2017 or 18. It is retroactively my favorite movie of 2014.
It took me 3 years to get you to watch Paddington.
This thing's just
a crusade.
This thing's just a damn delight.
Yeah. I eat marmalade now and I hate it.
The director of Mighty Boosh, and he also worked on Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, brought us this thing. It's the sweetest, most positive movie. But never once are you like, I get it. It's so charming and accessibly so, and it's, I don't know, man. It's just a big ball of joy, and you almost forget that you can make a movie like this with just not a lick of cynicism. Everybody's performances are fantastic. The bear is great. He looks great. He's just sweet and kind. He makes you this dumb bear special effect makes you want to be a better person. I love this movie, man. I love Paddington. It's so sweet.
So another movie that's just generally just lacking cynicism and very sweet is Nightcrawler.
Yeah. I want to be him.
These are my double feature.
So Paddington, you know how I feel about Paddington. I was advocating for Paddington for the last, I think, 4 years. And I legitimately think it should have been nominated for an Academy Award.
I do too.
Movies like that don't get nominated for an Academy Award. They just get looked over in the same way lots of genre films do. But
Paddington would be okay with that.
He would be.
Yeah.
He wouldn't care because that's not the point.
He would happy for the other nominees.
He would make Inuri a marmalade sandwich.
He was sure, and it was one of those things too. You remember when the ads? You started it by bringing up Paddington, but you remember when the ads came out and it looked like the Uncanny Valley?
Yeah.
I was so sure it was going to be bad, and then I saw it, and I love that movie, and it's so underrated.
And a sequel that's as good or better.
It is, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, movies like that should get acknowledged, but I guess you're right. In the end, it doesn't really matter, because if we are consumed by avarice, then we become Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler. I mean, he's also a survivor, right? So to be fair, if you guys have seen this movie, this is directed by Dan Gilroy, and it stars Jake Gyllenhaal and Renee Russo in an amazing role for her, Riz Ahmed and Bill Paxton. So it's like anchored by this incredible performance by Gyllenhaal, who is he falls into being a freelancer who captures news footage. So he's capturing live events like car chases and crashes and fires and things like that. And if you haven't seen it, it gets out of control. But it's not just about that. It's like, you brought up Network the other day. We both love Network. This is a movie also that's a takedown of media but also of the consumer. Why do we like sensationalism? Why do we love yellow journalism? The hunger for it feeds the beast that is this guy. But it also is a little bit about capitalism that's out of control, right? Because by any given marker, he's a huge success, especially by the end of the movie where he's franchising. And so how we demarcate success and failure is really examined in this movie, and it's sick. I went into this movie, I did not know what it was about. I thought it was a serial killer. I wasn't totally wrong.
Yeah.
And then I do have a question for you guys, because I walked out of this movie with my friend Dennis and my boyfriend, and Dennis and I were like, that was an amazing dark comedy. And my boyfriend was very concerned that was the interpretation.
I don't know if I'd call it a comedy.
a satire.
Satire.
Yeah.
Satirical,
You know?
yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
At
times.
Not a lot of ha-ha moments.
I mean, no, but it's like a satirical,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not totally off.
I mean, definitely like none more black than this.
Yeah.
But
It's more of a psychological
It's like
drama, but it's got satirical elements.
If Animal Farm is like a comedy, sure.
then surely.
Well, just really quickly, Gyllenhaal said Gilroy and I were laughing pretty much the whole movie. So, bam, baby.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
There you go. Dan Merle's
Yeah,
gonna
but
bring
they
it
laughed
home.
on the set of every movie. That's I would talk to Jake Gyllenhaal if I knew him, which I don't. 2014. Let's go with another cheerful movie. I joke a lot about how I'm a wuss when it comes to horror movies, and it's mainly because I hate jump scares. But this is a horror movie that actually chilled me, like sleeping with the lights on to the bone, and that is The Babadook. Oh, Jennifer Kent! What a amazing horror movie she made with The Babadook. I love this movie. It is the best. It is what the best horror movies are, which is incredibly scary and also not at all about the monster, even though it is about the monster.
Or the monster is a stand-in for
something else,
grief or whatever.
There are moments in this movie that are just still send a chill up my spine when underneath the covers when the thing's coming in the room, and I love that the monster is used sparingly. It's not this thing where it's like it's a mystery for 2 acts, and in the 3rd act you get a big it's still very much up for interpretation to some degree about like what's in her mind, what's not in her mind, what's real, what's not, and then when you realize the allegory of it all and the fact that it is standing in for grief and for mourning something and for learning how to live with that grief, which will tie into another one of my movies that I'm talking about. I just think it's so good. It works on so many different levels, and just the way that she crafted this atmosphere of tension to where her watching a television is one of the most terrifying things in the film. She didn't use a monster as a shortcut for scariness. It actually has some well-crafted scares and tension, and the sound design.
That's great.
Babadook, yeah. Babadook scared the crap out of me and also moved me. And not many horror films you can say that about.
Yeah.
So
Good year for
Babadook,
horror.
check
with
it out.
that, and It Follows in 1 year.
Yeah,
That was
really
a
good year
great
for
one
horror.
too. Metaphor for STDs.
Yes.
And then obviously the Babadook is about having a parent who's mentally ill and seen through the eyes of a kid. And the other amazing thing about it is like the kid's really annoying. And so, like, you kind of get... No, he is.
No,
It's a difficult...
He's a difficult child.
Difficult boy.
He's a difficult kid, which I think is a really good choice because, of course, that doesn't mean that he should then suffer the repercussions of having this monster come after him. And that's his interpretation of what happens to his mother, right? It's a different being.
It's also, for the viewer, a really good smokescreen.
But you get where she kind of like...
Yeah. But like the meta of it, like the craft of it, it's like a good smoke screen. You're so focused on like the kid being frustrating. If it was like a cherub, like I think you'd guess the twist quicker.
Yeah.
But it's a really good smoke screen for you taking sort of the Babadook off the mom.
Okay, so here's the point where I break the fourth wall for us and say, I've been told we have 10 minutes left to do this because the studio is booked for something else. So everybody say your 2 movies from 2015 and in a succinct 2 minutes. Go.
All right. So I know everyone just slagged it off and took shots at it in their little explanations, but I like The Revenant. I think The Revenant is one of the best films of 2015. I'll also talk about Brooklyn. But first, The Revenant. Also, Luzbecki, sorry. Look, I'm a city boy. I don't get out much, and this film made me scared of nature and reaffirmed that. And I think that you don't see lots of men versus nature stories anymore because we're so removed from it. We don't get out. We're not in the woods at all. But this was a true story of a man who got effed up by a bear and crawled hundreds of miles back to safety. So for all of Leo's overacting accusations, he was just screaming and shaking and bleeding for an Oscar. Would you not have done the same? Were you attacked by a bear and had to crawl your way through the woods to safety after a man stole your pelts?
Pelts.
I think you'd all do just the same. I think it was very realistic, terrifyingly so. Made me glad I'm a city boy. And then Brooklyn. I hesitate to call this human Paddington because I think that's a little demeaning to Saoirse Ronan, but I still think that she was so sweet and so charming, and it's a movie about like where you just want everything to turn out well for everyone involved. It's a very simple immigrant story of she immigrates here, she starts a life, she falls in love, she goes back home briefly and has to decide what she wants to do. Not the highest of stakes, but she's such a genuine good person. And so charming and so sweet that you just want to be like her, you know? Yeah. Her and Paddington is my dream couple goals.
Yeah, go with
Sweet
that
ship.
instinct.
Yeah.
I hate The Revenant. I just didn't like it as much as Birdman, and The Bear was the best villain that year.
Yeah.
That was bad. But it's okay.
Fine.
It's fine.
Different opinion.
It's just fine. Yeah. No, I love you. Creed.
Yes.
Creed. Oh man, this is a good movie. Michael B. Jordan's amazing in it.
Did you just drink?
Yeah, you guys, let me tell you about this box of film called Creed.
Jeff Bridges?
No, this is a review of Creed by the band Creed. Well, I just saw a boxing film. Ryan Coogler came to play the one-shot match. Looks so damn sweet. Man, I love this movie. Never in a million years was I interested in seeing more Rocky films. Yeah. And so, and especially so when they were like, it's the child of a Rocky character. I was like, oh, no. This movie is so good. The score is amazing. The remixes of the classic Rocky themes are awesome. If one of your New Year's resolutions is to get your ass out of the house and run a little bit more, I cannot make a stronger suggestion than to throw the Creed soundtrack on and you'll immediately feel like you're Superman. Yeah, it's shot gorgeously. Sylvester Stallone's incredible in it. He did not win that Oscar nom.
He did not. He lost it to Mark Rylance.
Yeah, I think that was a bit of a snub.
He was really good.
A little bit of a snub. Yeah, I mean, he was great, but like this was a great role for Sly. This role makes me sad that he just went back into dumb autopilot for the newer Rambo movie, but like yeah, Creed. It's awesome. My other one is, it's a cartoon because I'm a child. It's called The Boy and the Beast. This was an animated film from Funimation. It's on Amazon Prime. It's completely worth watching. It's about a boy named Ren who runs away from home after his mother died, and apparently his father wants nothing to do with him. And he ends up through magical shenanigans in a place called the Beast Kingdom. It's a kingdom full of beasts, you see. He
Go on.
He ends up being this sort of like grumpy outcast's ward. It's this great movie about sort of what hurt and anger that are left unchecked can do to you. It's a study on that. All of the various characters have been hurt in some way and have not dealt with it. And it's about the ramifications of that. Some of the visuals in this movie are absolutely gorgeous. Because it is a Japanese cartoon, at one point the manifestation of anger like explodes in one of them and becomes a weird, overwhelming monster. And it's one of the most haunting things I saw on a screen that year. It's just this absolutely beautiful imagery, totally worth watching. Boy and the Beast and Creed.
Awesome. Well, it's not often in life that we are gifted with truly emotionally effective puppet cunnilingus, but every once in a while you get Anomalisa. And this is probably my favorite movie of 2015, just because we never get movies like this. This is Charlie Kaufman, and it'll only make you sad that he doesn't get more done. He's so good. It is really, really tragic that he doesn't work more, and this is directed by him. It's a stop motion animation movie that follows this customer service expert, and he sees everyone in the world looks identical to him and has the same voice. They're all voiced by Tom Noonan. And he meets this one woman at a conference in Cincinnati, and she looks different. And so he becomes immediately enamored of her. And it is gorgeous because it is looking at this guy is such a jerk, you know. He sees everybody as similar. The minute that they start to disappoint him, because that's what ultimately happens, the minute that they start to disappointment or show their cracks and their humanity, they fade away for him and they become part of this amorphous whole that is separate from him. But it's his problem and it's his issue. It's not anybody else's issue. So it's interesting because she's imperfect and she's not, you know, so beautiful, and she's really insecure, and at first that really, really enraptures him. But eventually he just can't allow it. He just can't allow another human being to be whole. And the movie is like made imperfectly. It's, you know, the stop motion is imperfect, and so that kind of reflects the whole themes. It's gorgeous. You should see Anomalisa. It has one of the most realistic sex scenes that you'll ever watch.
But with puppets.
It's freaking amazing.
At least as hot as the Team America one.
It's not that hot. It's actually just more like disturbing.
Yeah. Too real.
It's too real. Yeah, it's a little too real. But you know what? I was rooting for Puppet Cunnilingus that year at the Academy Awards. Didn't win. Ex Machina.
Damn. Story of my life.
Written,
Sounds
directed,
like an indie punk band.
Puppet Cunnilingus.
What Puppet Cunnilingus? No, I was thinking more like we are Puppet Cunnilingus and we're not here to play music. Yeah.
Ex
Sorry.
Machina was a great movie that year too. This is directed and written by Alex Garland. He is amazing. We love him. I don't think that we need to say too much because everybody already loves Ex Machina. It's beautiful. It's stylish. It's obviously looks into AI. And poor Domhnall Gleeson in this movie. Man, is he suckered. But it's similar to Under the Skin too, in that I don't think she's not malevolent. I mean, she's certainly got a bone to pick with a particular character, but she's given good reason. And then outside of that, I think she just doesn't care.
Yeah, she's removed.
She's removed, and it's also a test to see, is she displaying human qualities? And the thing that convinces her maker that she is that she's a manipulator, which I think is very dark and very cynical and not necessarily the whole of humanity, but it's certainly an aspect of humanity. Also, best dance sequence.
Good dance scene.
Great
in, I think this decade.
It's up
Are
there.
there better dance sequences?
Call Me by Your Name.
Okay.
Armie Hammer with the you know, that's a great dance sequence.
But the element of
God.
surprise is
Oscar Isaac.
really takes it over the edge.
Man,
Ooh.
bring it home.
The first one is the movie that Ex Machina actually upset at the Oscars for Best Visual Effects, and I'm going to say it, Force Awakens. Is it a perfect movie? It is absolutely not a perfect movie, but when you think about the pressures that film had, not only the pressure of the original trilogy, but the pressure of the prequels, the fact that it was the first Star Wars movie in almost 10 years since Revenge of the Sith, the fact that you're not only reintroducing old characters, but introducing a whole new series of characters. I really like the movie. I think it feels it's like 20% a little too tied to the original trilogy, but I think that's offset by what rings true and what hits hard and what registers, particularly Harrison Ford, who's incredible in that in the film as Han Solo. You believe him as Han Solo. It's not just Harrison Ford coming back and like playing Harrison Ford as Han Solo. Like you believe that's the character. Carrie Fisher, of course. Sadly. There's a little extra melancholy now to the performance in that film, but I think they nailed the spirit of those characters in a way that they maybe did not for one of the other ones in a different Star Wars movie.
I'll argue with it in the next video.
In my opinion. But I think it feels like Star Wars. I think it did a really good job of setting up the universe. I love Daisy Ridley. I think she's great in the film. I think everyone actually, Oscar Isaac, who was in Ex Machina, I think it delivers on way more than it doesn't deliver on, and I think it's a a really solid movie.
Very underrated John Williams score too. It's
great John Williams.
It's quiet.
Score.
It's reflective. It's sad. Yeah.
BB-8. I just think that it really relaunched that entire universe in a way that has kept the momentum going, and we'll see how it coasts into this one, because it certainly hit some roadblocks along the way. And without that big push from Force Awakens, I don't know, we might be in a bit of a different position right now. The second one is also a cartoon for children about anger. Inside Out, my favorite Pixar movie.
Other emotions too.
Well, yes, but anger is a big one. I was tying it into Joe's thing about his movie being about a cartoon for children
Land
about
of
anger.
the Beast.
Yes.
Land of the Beast. Over 17
man,
beasts in Beastland.
I think that Inside Out is Pixar's best movie, and it's certainly my favorite of all the Pixar of all the Pixar movies. I just think it is so well written. Like I think it was nominated for Best Original Screenplay, and it should have been that year because that not even animated. That is one of the best movies that like breaks down the human condition, like what emotional maturity is and what growing up actually means, and this idea that you learn that the world's not binary, that you're not happy or sad, that sad things when you look back on them can make you happy, and happy things can make you sad, and yeah, it's really hard to make that adjustment, but it's told so simplistically that obviously it's kids can go see it. I'm crying over the imaginary dude at 1 second, and then they're like explaining to me what my emotions are the next second in a really insightful way. Like just that visual of the fact that you have one memory, and if you look at it from this way, it's sad, and if you look at it from this way, it's happy. Whew, like that, there's some brilliance going on in the screenplay and the voice casting, like Amy Poehler, and then you've got Phyllis Smith as Sadness, who's perfect, and Lewis Black and Bill Hader, and it was Mindy Kaling, right? She was the fifth one. Yeah. There's just, I love that movie. I think it's got so much more than a kids movie or even an animated movie. It's a great movie, and it really is like, again, if aliens beamed down and were just like, explain to me the human condition, I would see like, well, there's a handful of movies that I think you should watch, but here's the one you should start with, Inside Out. I think it's a great film.
A lot of good movies that we talked about that hopefully you like as well. Let us know what we missed in the comments.
Interstellar.
Oh God, Interstellar!
We're being sucked into the black hole of not saying Interstellar.
So Ex Machina, as far as sci-fi went that year, again, it's this test to see if an AI can be human, and you know what? She can with murder. Question for you. We've been thanking everybody for having this platform to do some good in the world, and as we wrap it up over the holiday season, I would like you to talk about
Oh yeah, we've been shouting out A26LA this month. It's it's not just in LA. It's nationwide. It's an amazing program that serves underprivileged communities, teaching kids creative writing skills, providing tutoring services. It's a really fantastic program. They are training up the kids that are going to write the next tale of the Beast Kingdom.
Yay!
So check them out. We've got links in the description. Donate, volunteer. It's totally cool. Hey, Spencer, you volunteered there before.
Yeah. If you're in, they're probably beyond LA. Maybe.
Yeah, there's a bunch all over the country. Yeah.
If you got time, help a kid with their homework and then do a fun creative writing assignment. It's a great way to volunteer. It's super fun.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
You did that?
Back when I had time.
Okay.
And a heart.
Yeah.
I'm super impressed. I really am. Great. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We are counting down the decade. We will be back with more. We're going to do 2015, 2016?
2016, 2017.
Ooh. Numbers. We'll see you soon.
I forgot Minions.
Oh.